they're all in until you ask them to like back out and like look and see how this all falls. If they have a life, there's natural things that fall in the path.
There are some studies on deloading showing that deloading in the short term might hurt. But that's because they're not seeing a big picture.
I think this is different, though, that we're talking about.
It's because you need to push something. Okay, what happens is, okay, when you're training, the trainability. Trainability is the amount of improvement you can make on a muscle or physical capacity. Okay, so the higher, the more you get to the limit of your trainability, the slower the progress becomes. You become so well adapted to that task that it doesn't represent a stress anymore. Okay, and at that point, at one point, you might increase the stress. It doesn't matter. The body is adapted to that type of training. There was a study conducted. They looked at the mTOR activation following resistance training, and what they found is that after a while, the mTOR response was lesser and lesser and lesser and lesser to the same training stimulus. So basically, protein synthesis was decreasing in response to a training. But what they found is that when they used a break, then they got back to the training, the protein synthesis was back up to where it first was in the training cycle. So, as you mentioned, you become resensitized.
So what happened with that during that break? What was going on during that time? Was there no training?
For them, it was no training.
Okay.
It was just regular. But you can actually do that if you just dramatically reduce training volume or training stress. I believe that just lowering training volume to what would be called the minimum maintenance level, which would be between 1/4 and 1/3 of your training volume, just that would be enough to sustain most of the muscle mass. You would feel smaller because there's less inflammation and so forth. But that would be enough over, let's say, a 4 to 6 weeks period to resensitize yourself. Or it could be just not training a muscle. I remember that, okay, my biceps are not my strong suit, but even then, if I don't train them for a while, let's say I was doing a Shaco's program, okay, I actually lost size in my biceps. But as soon as I hit biceps again, dude, I grew my biceps like I never did before. I think that a lot of people, they shoot themselves in the foot by constantly training to the limit for every muscle group for hypertrophy. And if they just learn to back down and maybe even take 4 weeks off, you know what? You're not going to die. Muscle mass can be maintained perfectly without training for 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, provided protein is high, it might start to lose some muscle. But certainly if you take 4 weeks off, you're going to feel flat. Your muscle is going to be looking deflated because there's less inflammation, less glycogen storage. But once you get back, you're going to make big inner gains again. But you have not lost enough muscle that you're starting from a lower point. You're just like building on. Yeah, but I'll lose muscle. Yeah, but are you building muscle right now? No. So,
it's funny because it's the same reason I used to use to kind of push back a little bit on deloads is the same reason I use now that plays into the desensitization is either you're going to intentionally lay it out in your annual plan, or in time, it's going to lay out for you. You're going to get hurt. You're going to need a surgery. Something's going to, and if any serious lifter who's been training for 10, 15 years of training years, seriously, look back through the 15 years and you're going to see periods of time where you had to be desensitized because either you fucked your back up, there was a surgery, something went wrong, which sidetracked you for more weeks than you would like, definitely more than 1 or 2 weeks. And then what I ask them is, now ask yourself what happened the year after. Usually they did better, way better.
Alexeyev once said in an article that was actually published on Elite way back, and Alexeyev said the one thing that, in an interview, the one thing that lifters miss or lack, what they need and they don't have to progress, is a serious injury. Because when they come back, he was talking more about motivation and stuff like that, but it's also that your body becomes more responsive. And you don't lose everything. So you don't start from the same point, but you still have the same nuclear domain, so the muscle will respond faster, but like the mTOR, the protein synthesis, will be increased back to like like almost the beginning of your training cycle so you can regain again. What people will do more nowadays is they do a training cycle and then they go right into a training cycle.
Yes.
The beginning of the second cycle is less intense than the end of the first cycle, but it's still not enough to resensitize your body. So you might, let's say the first cycle, you might gain 7%. The second one, you're going to gain 3%. And the third one, you're going to gain 1%. Not that the training is not as good. It's just you achieve the highest level of trainability. You need to like resensitize your body to that.
And I think they kind of run into those problems too, because people live in this world of here's this 10-week cycle, here's this 12-week cycle. Yep. They're living from today forward 12 weeks, today forward 12 weeks. Yep. If they just zoom out and look at what do you have planned for the whole year? And I'd be, oh, you know, my brother's wedding is in the fall. I'm like, interesting. So's Thanksgiving, so's Christmas. Everything kind of falls like right around there. Yep. So you kind of already got a fucked up block over this 4 weeks that's already disrupted.
Might as well use it.
Yeah. Why? Yeah. Lean into it. You know, instead of trying to figure out when it comes, like, oh shit, how am I going to fit all my training in 3 days, you know, so I can travel, which is usually what they do. Always. Where you back out and then it's like, it's always intriguing to me how that goes back to that all-in mentality. Like they're all in until you ask them to like back out and like look and see how this all falls. And there's natural, if they have a life, there's natural things that fall in the path that can either work for you or against you.
That's where being like obsessive will hurt you. I mean, you need to be dedicated to your craft, but being obsessive will actually limit how high you can go. I remember like one of my favorite weightlifter, Elia after every world championship, he would take 4 months off training completely. So I would watch, like I was always watching his training videos, and he was reposting the video as the beginning of the year, and he was like, keep in mind, it's a guy who clean and jerk 250 kilos, and he had problems doing 200. Dude, he lost it completely. Then 6 months later, he broke a world record because he allowed his body to respond again. And he went from being world champion as a 180-pound lifter to world champion in the heavyweight class because he was constantly growing, even though he would have down and then up and down and up. But it actually takes a lot of confidence to do that, because if you rely on either your appearance or your strength as something that defines you, it's kind of hard to say, you know what, for a month, 2 months, I'm going to let it go. If that's your core identity, it's kind of like letting go of your core identity.
Yeah.
So it's like ask any bodybuilder how it feels to look smaller for a month. Are they willing to look small for a month? No way in hell they're gonna say yes. Especially not nowadays. Back in Arnold days, that's what they did. I mean, Arnold, after the Olympia, he would become almost like a swimmer. Kevin Levrone didn't train after Olympia. Ronnie Coleman would take months off. And I think that one of the big problems is that people who want to be either muscular or strong are impatient to get muscular and strong. And that is why they never reach their goal.